First place, second place, 2 third places, and 2 honorable mentions. So this is the first honorable mention. This is awarded to the story Your Mother, written by Terry Friedlander. I hope you have a daughter just like you someday. That threat streamed out of my mother's mouth, resembling a familiar refrain of a favorite song. Growing up, I had my share of bad girl days. Once, when my mother discovered me half naked on the couch at 2 in the morning, I remember then 15-year-old boyfriend cowering under the blanket next to me like a dog in a lightning storm. His profound embarrassment left me convinced he'd never be back. Instead of screaming or lecturing, she parked herself in the hallway, shaking her head in dismay. The silence was deafening. As soon as her bedroom door closed, my sufficiently traumatized boyfriend emerged, dressed and bolted as though guilty of a bank heist. I wished I could join him. The next morning, my mother stared as I strode into the kitchen. Ready for full-on verbal warfare, my rebellious teenage persona braced for what was coming next. Don't let your father catch you doing whatever you were doing last night, Serena. She whispered through the sound of the fork feverishly scrambling eggs for my little sister. That was it. The big reprimand never came. I wasn't grounded until hell froze over, or until all the cows came home, or any of the other popular expressions of the day. Just then, my unknowing sibling joined me at the kitchen table, talking of homework and tests and ranting about the kids arguing with teachers in the class. Bad kids? Huh? What kind of role model had I been? My stomach felt like I'd been punched in the gut. When my sister finished eating, I grabbed our backpacks and raced off with them for our respective school buses, grateful to be out of the suffocating walls. My sweet 16 was a few days later. Despite my objections, my mother had concocted a lame family barbecue in our backyard, just what I didn't want. A party with all my gossiping relatives and annoying cousins, good times. Soon, brightly wrapped presents lined a folding table. My gleeful sister helped my father fill water balloons and set up the badminton net. As I hid in the basement, reluctant to make my grand entrance, I overheard my mother talking to one of the aunts. The best thing I ever did in my life was to have children. The words hit me like a car crash. My mother sounded so sincere, I couldn't stop crying. My mother exhibited the most extraordinary capacity to forgive and forget. She forgave our immature adolescent behaviors, including foreplay in the living room. But did she ever forget? Looking back, perhaps the ability to forget was an early onset sign of what was now taking over her mind in the dreaded disease called Alzheimer's. Those ancient memories can suddenly consume my every thought. That's by Terry Friedlander, Your Mother. And by the way, I do have a couple people's permission so far to publish these on our website. And so once I hear from everybody, then I'll be sending you the stories of the people who want our user, our webmaster. Okay.
You can send them to her. They'll find their way to me.
Okay, this is our next honorable mention. This is awarded to Billy and the Time Machine, written by Arthur DeRaco. Dr. William Masters twirled the dials. His assistant Jason said, "Are you ready, Dr. Masters?" Masters glanced at the helmet dangling above his head. "Jason, if this works, it could be the most significant discovery in human history." "And yeah, I'm ready." He closed his eyes and turned his thoughts to the experiment. This was his chance to change the past. Billy Masters sat next to his father in their brand new pickup, bright red and without a single dent. The ride to school would be short. He craned his head to watch glimpses of the road ahead, thankful for the bumps, each giving him a fleeting glance over the dash. "How do you like it, son?" "It's great, Dad. Smells good, too." "Tighten up that seatbelt. Wouldn't want you popping out before we get to school." They laughed. He remembered the laugh. It was then that something yellow burst into view from his father's side of the truck. A squeal of grinding metal filled the cabin. Shoulder straps bit into Billy's neck as brilliant shards of glass turned into a slow-motion ice storm, and the world rolled. Seconds later, no engine sound, no laughter, just the pounding beat of his heart. A blur of white coats, blue coats, pulled at him, mumbling words he couldn't understand. He awoke in the hospital. His mom cried. Jason said, "I have to admit that I'm worried for you." "Don't fret, it'll all be over in a few minutes." The time has come to change the past. Jason said, "I've started up the backup generators." "Excellent. You've been a great help, Jason." Jason blushed. "I know we've been over this, Dr. Masters, but this trip of yours still feels like a paradox." "Paradoxes are illusions." "So what do you think will happen?" "Lots of theories," said Dr. Master. "Few facts. First off, the only thing going into the past is my consciousness. It's not like my body will go back. That would end up making a mess, especially if I run into myself." Masters forced out a chuckle, more to relax himself than Jason. "Yeah, but you'll end up in your brain, your past brain, right?" "That's what should happen." "And that would mean a younger you." "You'll get a visitor inside his head, hopefully in time to save my father." Jason fiddled with the helmet. "Well, do you remember something like that happening?" "No, I don't." "Right, there is a paradox." "You're overthinking it," said Masters. "Maybe I've forgotten the whole thing. Or after I come back, that's when I'll remember." "I still don't get it." Picture reality as a stack of movie frames, each one representing a point in time. As your consciousness moves through those frames, you become aware of each one. The direction of movement is how we sense time. All I'm doing is going in reverse. "Then," said Jason, "why not go forward? You know, to the future. That sounds like it would be more fun." "You're assuming my future exists. What if I die tomorrow? Remember, I need to be alive to make a visit to myself. At least I'm sure the past exists. Besides, that's where my father died." "Let's get on with it." Jason finished adjusting the helmet with its wires. "I've got you set for September 13th, 1999 at 7:30 a.m. local time. Is that right?" "Don't forget to yank me back in precisely 10 minutes. "What if that doesn't work? I mean, the yanking." "Then I'll be stuck in a time loop." Masters tensed at the thought. Living with little Billy, reaching his present age, then going back again and again for the rest of eternity. At least I wouldn't know it was happening. So, are you seeing the hook? You want to read the rest of the stories? Right. This is interesting. Tied for third, so I don't know which order I put in here, but this is always so fun when it's a tie. So I will tell you about third place, second place, and first place. I'm not going to tell you the points or anything, but I will tell you this. There was 1 point between the third place winners and the second place winner. There was 1 point between the second place winner and the first place winner. Wow. So the quality of the stories were amazing, and I don't envy the judges at all. All right. So, 1 third place winner wins $100. And this is awarded to the story A New Immortal, written by Janet Corso. The honorable mention, they have a $10 Barnes & Noble certificate. Okay, A New Immortal. The squeal of wooden wheels and the creak of an old mill wain disturbed the peace of the graveyard. The clumsy wagon is pulled by draft horses, accustomed to hauling a stock of green-cut lumber, still heavy with sap and moisture. It pulls through the gates of the crumbling wall which separates the cemetery from Bain Forest. Few go beyond the edge of that forest, and even they never go into those dark green-shadowed depths. Don't want to be there, told you that. Night's coming on, and I don't want to be here. The taller man snaps the reins with his thick hands, whistles at the mismatched horses to hurry. Stop your complaining. It's good money. We ain't got nothing to do but dump the box. His short partner raises his voice above the noise of the old wagon. Then you go where you want, right back to the fat cat and the drink and the cuddles. Sure, Wizard said it's good money, but I don't trust that one. The men guide their noisy conveyance toward the back of the boneyard, to the oldest sites within the tumbled walls. Here are larger headstones and mausoleums. Thick, hairy vines cover much of the carvings. Sneak tendrils into joints and cracks spread them even wider. The stonework lies hidden beneath thick mattings of grasses and brambles. Here and there, a young tree forces its way through the roof of an ancient crypt. Other work keeps the groundskeepers too busy to tend these graves, or perhaps they believe the whispers. Spirits haunt this part of the graveyard. It is this way the wagon goes, along an almost non-existent pathway. In the lonely graveyard, the noise of the carter's vehicle mimics the moans and cries of tormented souls. They stop at the resting place of the great General Genera. This the one then? The short one asks. Don't look like much, does it? He clears his throat and spits to the side, pitting the dust with spittle. The other nods, his left eye twitching as he peers into the fast-settling dusk. As the wagon trails to a stop, they jump out and hitch the horses to a nearby tombstone, then rustle a large box out of the back of the wagon. Their muscles bulge with the weight of it. Dusk fast gives way to night. The two haul the box to Genera's doorstep, then go back to the wagon for tools with which to breach the door. I could tell them about the other way into the crypt, the one I always use, but I'm not willing to share such knowledge. They bang and clunk and swear. Even such a din will not bother the sleepers around them. There's no reason to worry about noise so far away from the empty road. By the time they force the door, darkness has fallen. The men haul their burden through the door. Soon lamplight flickers over the inner walls. The scraping and clunking tells of men in a hurry. Perhaps these two wish to get to the friendly camaraderie of a tavern or home to their families, or they fear the night. As they exit the vault, they argue. "'Twarn't nothing, I tell you." The shorter man looks carefully around as he speaks. "Sounded like mice to me. Always find rodents in places like these." "Mice, nothing," his partner replies. No tracks, no droppings, 'twarn't mice." "Idiot, it's pure dark in that hole. How are you going to see anything? Your mother raised a fool for a child." Even as he chides the taller man, the short one's eyes dart from side to side. His face is as pale as the moon above. Muttering at each other, they carefully reseal the chamber. Their concern is not that the breach be detected. Tales told of what happens to those who try entering this crypt leave few willing to dare it. The carters make such a seal as would keep things in as well as out. After one last look and as much of a check as possible, the wagon is mounted and the horses signaled to move on. But nothing will increase the beast's speed, and as the carters pass beneath the tree in which I settle, I reach from the branch on which I sit to moan and lightly caress the back of each man's head. Let them carry tales home of spirits and haunts by Genera's final resting place. They cannot deny the sound and the gentle touch. The other third place winner is awarded to Captured by Peggy Insula. Belly up on the hard, narrow surface, I open my mouth to scream again. I only produce a dry gag. My throat is raw and parched. My wrists and ankles burn and tickle from oozing blood. Wrist bound over my head to the sawhorse, I stop struggling against the scratchy restraints and the duct tape binding my mouth. Duct taping my throat to the sawhorse was the ultimate indignity. What kind of monsters would do this to a girl? The scumbags wouldn't dare attack anybody their own size. My back throbs. With my hands and feet bound together and tied to the legs of the sawhorse, my spine is arched. My movement is constricted. I'm an animal waiting to be gutted. At last, I stop trying to ease the pain. I lie still in the gloom of the shed. It would help if there were windows. No such luck. I pray for a hurricane wind to blow this dirty little building down. I listen. The air outside is hopelessly still. I have only myself to rely on. My body goes limp, and I cry. To take my mind off my misery, I think about the endless field of tall, green corn growing up close to the shed. The bright sun is sinking by now. I wish with all my might that I were back outside, running barefoot down the corn rows. A sad, teasing reminder the dark, hoed dirt still clings to my bound feet. Growing up in the country without a neighbor in sight, I know I have to watch out for myself. Ma and Pa repeat that lesson daily. Rattlesnakes, vagrants, strangers, even bears. Any of these can cross a girl's path long before anybody who means her well. Yet today, when I lost myself in the joy of running between the long corn stalks that waved their sun-warmed leaves above my head, I didn't have a care in the world. Why hadn't I been more wary? I made myself an easy target for my captors, and they knew it. I was stupid. I let them outsmart me. Fresh tears of shame and defeat slid down my cheek. I blinked them away. No, I croak. I bite my tongue to stop the sobbing. Never give in. Don't let them two losers win. The sour tang of damp old hay thickens the air. Stinging sweat trickles into my eyes. I squeeze them shut. Do Ma and Pa wonder where I am? Not likely. They won't start to look for me until supper time, maybe not even then. I hold my breath to listen again. My enemies will be back. They had time in isolation to torture me any way they like. Am I going to die here? I'll never get to go to the 6th grade dance. More tears roll down my cheek. I hate my weakness. I can't let myself think about what might happen. I have to get out of here. With effort, I control my breathing and grit my teeth against my tears. Inside the shed, something scrabbles near the wall behind my head. A rat. I exhale. Maybe a rat snake will eat it before it eats me. I shudder. Goosebumps send a chill over my clammy skin. Can't panic. I've got to pull myself together. I squint, searching the musty shed for anything that can help me. In the near darkness, dim outlines reveal a hoe, a rake, and a rusty scythe, leaning out of reach against the wall beside me. I know a saw and a hammer hang from nails out of my sight. What might my torturers think of to do with those? Dusty bins for horse and cattle feed line the front wall. Bales of hay are stacked against the wall behind me. Bound as I am, none of this helps me. Ignoring the pain and holding off panic, I renew my struggle against the rough baling twine cutting into my wrists. Ouch! The two devils who left me here tied the knots tight. I yank at the ropes until shooting pain forces me to stop. With a dry croak of despair, I rest only long enough for the agony to ease. This is our second place winner. And it goes to the story, Timing is Everything, written by Elizabeth Volstadt. Lauren sipped her ginger ale as she read Mark's text. Last minute project, will be late. That could mean anything from 15 minutes to 2 hours. She looked around the noisy midtown bar and tried to relax. Maybe wine would help. No, she had promised herself, no wine until she talked to Mark. She checked her watch. 6:30. She hoped Mark hadn't been asked to chase down some obscure fact again. That could take hours. As the newest associate in his law firm, he never said no. Couldn't he just once make up an excuse? How's it going? She started to text. She felt a flash of anger, and then felt a hand on her shoulder. She looked up to see Mark's dark eyes. His cheeks were red from the December cold, but his lips were warm when he leaned in to kiss her. I'm really sorry. Something came up and, he shrugged. The anger left as quickly as it had come. She did know, even if she didn't like it. Lauren smiled at the dimple created by his apologetic grin. Mark hated that dimple, though he thought it took away from his professional image. She thought it softened his chiseled features. That's okay, you're here now.
Hello. Hello.
They hurried to take the last empty booth. Finally seated, Lauren's mouth went dry. She had to talk to Mark. She had even rehearsed what she would say, but now she couldn't remember a word. What do you say when you're about to turn someone's life upside down? She let Mark talk about his day. My boss said I knew the law better than any associate he's ever had. Maybe I'll make partner sooner than I thought. Makes the extra hours worth it, doesn't it? He grinned as he loosened his tie. How about you? What did your boss think about your idea for that new book on the Appalachian Trail? She liked it, Lauren said. She agreed that distinct sections would make it easier for people to follow and place the pictures. Maybe you'll make editor ahead of schedule too, he grinned again. We're both on a roll. If this were last week, Lauren would have grinned back. Now, everything had changed. They had more than their careers to think about. She had to tell Mark. The waiter chose that moment to come for their drink order. Lauren held up her ginger ale and said she was fine. Mark ordered a Sam Adams lager. When he was gone, Mark looked at Lauren. The usual? He asked, referring to the Wednesday night specials that they loved, prime rib for him and blackened salmon for her. She nodded, but not blackened tonight, just grilled. My stomach doesn't feel right. Mark frowned. This is the second time this week you've said that. Maybe you should see a doctor. He took her right hand and absently stroked her palm. It was the perfect opening. I did see a doctor. I'm so excited to announce the #1 winner. I've had such fun with this. He happens to be a member of my critique group. He's the treasurer of the board. Jim Nelson. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. Isn't that awesome? His story is ne'er-do-well. You want to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
A little more enthusiasm.
I can't believe this.
It's awesome.
I can't believe
I'm so proud of you.
this. First of all, everybody knows everybody. And I write mystery novels. I don't really write short stories, but I like to put something in the anthologies and stuff like this. But I'm like, I have a hard time figuring out what to write. So not every time, but a lot of times I'll take something from my book, a book I'm working on, because I know those characters. And that's what I did here. I had to come up with a story for this contest. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I took this kid and a little bit of the situation from the book that's done now. It's still in the baby hands. But so anyway, here it is. Okay. Jeez, oh man.
Sorry, next day I'm back a little so we can see you on the.
Oh, here? Oh, yeah.
You're a big star, you
Oh,
need
yeah.
to be seen.
Buddy Sinclair stopped shoving Campbell's baked beans into his mouth for a second and asked his mother, "What does near go well mean?" Christine took a sip. What? I said, what does near go well mean? I heard Mr. Sundstrom say this travel court was filled with misfits and near-do-wells. His mother's eyes hardened. Oh, he did he? Well, it's nice to know what he thinks of the people that keep in the business. What does it mean? The word's pronounced ne'er-do-well, and I'll tell you what it means, but don't go thinking Mr. Sundstrom knows what he's talking about because he doesn't. It means a person who's lazy or irresponsible. She set her cup down with a bang. I have a notion to march right over to his office and tell him what I think of his opinion. We're living here because a drunk driver killed your father, not because we're lazy. The nerve of that man. Maybe you don't want to do that. He'll probably toss us out of here. Then where are we going to go? He took a deep breath. You're right. Just because we're down on our luck right now doesn't mean. Buddy interrupted. Some new guy moved in the cabin next door when you were cleaning the Ferguson's house. Yeah, I saw a car when I drove in. Have you met him? Kinda. He's got a girl with him who's about my age. I tried to say hello, but she didn't say anything. She just ran into the house. She's probably shy. Don't be bothering him. We both know how you like to talk. A huge German shepherd padded into the kitchen and started whining. Finish your milk and take King outside. He needs to go. Buddy drained his glass. Come on, King. When they got outside, Buddy noticed his new next-door neighbor was sitting on a small open porch smoking a cigarette. Buddy gave a quick wave and then followed a narrow sidewalk a few blocks to the small marina. He enjoyed watching the sailboats as they plowed into the harbor. After half an hour, he and King ran back to the lakeside tourist cabin where he and his mother were staying. As he was headed to the porch, the man next door yelled, "Do you always let that dog run free without a leash?" Buddy stopped. Yeah, he's friendly. He looks big and mean, but he just licked to death anybody who came around." The man stood and moved closer to the railing. "That's good to know, but my daughter's scared of new dogs. Could I ask you to keep it on a leash for a few days?" Buddy wrinkled his nose. Did they even have a leash? "Oh yeah, there was one in the back closet. I guess." He turned toward the steps and then stopped. "Hey, mister, I tried to say hello to your daughter when you pulled in, but she just ran into the house." Instead of answering, the man came down the steps. As he approached, he held out his hand. "Sam Ashworth." Buddy shook it. Buddy said, "I'm Buddy Sinclair." Sam bent down on one knee. "Look, son, my little girl's been through some bad times. Something happened to her about 6 months ago. She hasn't spoken since, not to me or to anyone, not a word. So if you want to be nice and you think she's ignoring you, she's not, okay?" What happened?" The man stood. "Well, let's just say her stepdad's a very bad man who's going to spend a long time in prison. I really don't want to say anything more." 2 weeks later, Buddy's mother sat across from him at the kitchen table. "I do believe you have a crush on that pretty little girl next door." Buddy's neck flushed. "Nah, why would I have a crush on her? She don't talk." "You've sure been spending a lot of time with her." "Who else is there to play with? The only other kid here's Frankie, and you won't let me go near him." "No, I won't. He's 3 years older than you. He smokes cigarettes and he has a filthy mouth." Buddy nodded. "See, that leaves Molly. It took a whole week before she didn't run into the house whenever I said something. Today she walked down to the harbor with me. I couldn't believe it." "That's good, Buddy. I've talked with her father a few times. Sounds like she could really use a friend." "I guess, but it's kind of hard to be friends with someone when I'm the only one doing all the talking." Christine smiled. "You've never had a problem with that before." Buddy pretended he didn't hear. "Hey, Mom, can I ask you a question?" "Sure, what is it?" "Why do you think she stopped talking? Mr. Ashworth said it was something to do with her stepdad." His mother took a moment and smoothed out the wrinkles in her dress. "I really don't know what happened, but I've heard that in very rare occasions, if someone's put through a traumatic situation, they can react by going mute." Buddy looked up from his dinty more beef stew. "How long don't they speak?" He struggled. "I suppose it's different for every situation. So if something comes along and scares me, I might lose my voice?" She reached over and tousled his hair. "I should be so lucky." She looked over at the dog. "It's that time again. Go take King out while I do the dishes." Buddy grabbed the leash that was hanging next to the door. "Come on, King, time to go." He led the dog over to a tree behind the cabin. As the dog was doing his business, Buddy bent down and examined a clump of red mushrooms that had sprouted up the night before. There was a loud bark behind him. Buddy flew into the air and spun around. King was pulling on the leash and staring at a big gray rabbit. Buddy reached out for his throat. Oh no, could he speak? He opened his mouth and tried to whisper, "Hello, hello, Mr. Rabbit, can you hear me?" The rabbit turned and disappeared into the underbrush. Buddy spoke louder. "Can you hear me now?" Something rustled behind him. Molly was staring at him with a puzzled look. He cleared his throat. "Oh, hi, Rabbit." He pointed toward the bushes. King spotted a rabbit. She smiled. "Hey, I'm going over to the harbor. You want to come with me?" Molly nodded. As they walked next to each other on the narrow sidewalk, Buddy told her how his dad always wanted to get a sailboat, how they had gone looking for one the weekend before he died. When they arrived at the marina, Buddy said, "Watch your step. Some of these planks are old and rotten." She pointed to a sailboat that had a pirate flag flying from one of its masts. Buddy said, I know, isn't that cool? That's Mr. Jacobson's. As he was talking, Molly ran toward the boat. Her shoe caught the curled up end of an old board and she tumbled into the water. Buddy ran to the edge of the dock. Molly's arms were flailing. It was clear she didn't know how to swim. He watched in horror as she started to sink. Molly, Molly! He kicked off his shoes, pulled his t-shirt off, and jumped into the water. It took him several minutes to find her. She was wedged halfway underneath the fishing trawler. Buddy swam to the surface, gulped a lungful of air, and kicked his way back down. He reached for her hand and pushed himself off the sandy bottom. After what seemed like forever, they reached the surface. Two men ran up. One jumped into the water and lifted the limp girl to the dock. He called to his friend, start CPR, she's not moving. Buddy climbed up to a railing. He coughed a few times and gasped for breath. By this time, a small crowd had gathered. Someone asked Buddy, are you okay? King was licking his face. Buddy took a few more breaths. I'm okay. As the faint wail of a siren sounded in the distance, his mother ran up. Buddy, what happened? Are you all right? The next afternoon, Christine came home from work early. Wash up and put on your Sunday shirt. We're going over to the hospital and pay Mr. Ashworth a visit. Buddy looked up from his comic book. We are? How is Molly doing? A tear formed in his mother's eye. She struggled to keep her composure. Not so well, I'm afraid she's still in a coma. As they walked up the steps to the hospital, Buddy laid behind. His mother stopped. What's wrong? He wiped his face. I feel bad. I should have been able to get her out of that water sooner. Christine bent down and grabbed him by both shoulders. Buddy, you saved her. If you hadn't done what you did, she'd be gone by now. No matter what happens, you're a hero. She didn't mention that several organizations had already contacted her about putting together a college fund so he could attend a community college where he was old enough. Why are we going if she's in a coma? She won't even know we're there, his mother said. You don't know that. Besides, we're doing this for her father. We want Mr. Ashworth to know we're thinking of him. As Christine pushed open the main entrance door, several of the nurses stopped. They stepped to the side and started clapping. Good job, Buddy. Way to go, Buddy. Thank you for jumping in and saving her, Buddy. Buddy's face flushed. His mother took his hand. She whispered, not bad for a ne'er-do-well. They took the elevator to the third floor and found room 9C. When they entered, Sam was sitting in a chair next to his daughter's bed. Medical equipment and tubes of all sizes surrounded her. He turned. When he saw who it was, he came over and gave Buddy a big hug. How is she? Christine asked. Unfortunately, nothing's changed. Sam motioned toward the door. Let's talk outside. Buddy stepped next to the bed and watched as the blankets moved up and down in time with walking machines. She looked so peaceful lying there, so pretty. He brushed tears from his eyes. Hi, Molly. It's me, Buddy. The machines continued to wheeze and click. As he stood there, he noticed something. Did she move? No, that couldn't be. She was in a coma. Wait, there it was again. His heart beat faster. Her eyes. He turned toward the door. Should he tell them? Something touched his hand. He jumped. It was her. She had taken his hand. Her eyes fluttered. She slowly turned her head and said, thank you. She talked. He turned to call out to his mother. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Not one sound, not a word.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it for this end.
I need you to pose.
The president, please. Pose with the first place winner.
Jim, come on up here.
Oh.
No mask.
Have you got the,
Certificate?
oh, so you gotta have.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, you can put those down and then.
Yeah,
just like-
well, yeah.
Okay.
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 Not for this.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Everybody from home, sorry it didn't work out, but we are recording, so everything's gonna work out anyway.
We think we are.
Ashley McGrath, everyone, she's gonna talk about the Don Argo Award.
Hey everyone, it's good to see you all here today. So I just wanted to remind you one more time about the Don Argo Award. The deadline for submissions is tomorrow, and I received only one submission so far. So you do have one more day to enter something. What we're looking for is the first 50 pages double spaced of a book that you've published within the last 2 years, and the book must have been set in Florida. And the winner will receive a cash prize and a plaque. If you have any questions, you can refer to the Argo Award page at SCWG.org. So we hope to see a few more submissions. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Ashley?
I have one.
Yes.
How many years have you chaired this? Have you been the chairperson for the Don Argo Award?
I'm sorry.
How many years have you been the chairperson?
Oh, well, we've been running the contest for 10 years now.
You've been running it for like the last 4 or.
Yeah, this is my 5th year.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
It's my pleasure to do it because Dr. Argo was a math professor of mine at the Community College. So I'm happy to do this in his honor and memory.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks, Ash. Okay, so one final thing before we go. We have, we're getting ready to collect some short stories or poems or whatever for our yearly anthology. So as you guys get my email. Okay, so I put the 4, I think it's 4 or 5, 4 titles, 4 suggested titles that we want to use for our next anthology. So I'd like to just let you know, and you guys can vote by email. You don't have to vote here and now, it's not a problem, but just want to let you know. And if you have any suggestions of something different than those 4 titles, please. We prefer one-worded, one-worded titles. But if you have any other suggestions other than, I think it's COVID-19, survival, family, what was it? Freedom. I think virus is one. Virus is one. Yeah. Virus is one. Family, COVID-19, and survival. So if you have any other suggestions, again, please just reply to the email. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collect everybody's vote, and then I'll let you know probably by the end of this month, most likely. I'll let you guys know what the winner is, and then we're going to start taking submissions for them. Okay? We don't want to go until next year. We want to try and get it done for Christmas this year. All right? I'm done. Does anybody have anything new? Any other than our winners for the short story contest? But yeah, come on up here, Jay. Come on up. Jay Hebner, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
We don't have to kneel.
All right. Just want to let you know I got a copy of proof of my new book. I should have regular copies out. It just came out. You can get it from Amazon right now. The ebook will be out on Monday. Murder at the Seminole Fund, and that's it. It always feels good to have a new book out. This is the 4th one in the series. Yes. I was not quite good. I found the series. I didn't know which one it was. Yeah, series are good. You get somebody buying the first book, and if they like it, they'll buy the rest of them. So, yeah, this is my 2nd series we've got. So, and I've also started on the 5th one, and that one right there. Got a name for it: Murder of Cowboy Chief.
Audible?
I have one book on Audible. The Audibles, there's not a whole lot of demand for it yet, you know,
I'm
but.
selling way more Audible.
Mhm.
I sold 1,070 Audible.
Okay, keep that in mind. Yeah,
It's just amazing, yeah.
we're coming forward to learn. All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
Jay. Congratulations. Speaking of Audible, I'm taking your advice, so I am actually recording right now. He's got a, for everybody knows, on the camera. He's a ham radio operator, and so they deal with recordings and radios and all that stuff, all that sound stuff. So he's got a friend who's got like a home studio kind of thing. So I'm doing the recording for Christmas in Venice right now, because Christmas in Venice has a lot of phrases where they're speaking in Italian and everything like that. It's set in Venice, obviously. So they need, I need someone who knows the language and speaks it well, not with any accents or anything like that. So and I'm pretty picky about that one. So I figured I'll start with that, and then we'll go from there.
I
See what happens.
Winter Island yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it,
And you're sharing though. You're
No.
getting.
I read it.
You're doing it.
narrating it.
It's the first time.
Okay, so you're
They
doing
made
your
me
own.
a colossal mistake, because I'm not a professional narrator, and it may pay. But I thought, what the heck? And it was a hell of a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
for
it
me
is,
too.
it is for us, and she's gonna keep doing it at this guy's studio because we want
He
it
set
to
up
sound
very
the
well.
same, but it's not a difficult thing, because I'm gonna set up in our house.
Yeah, I got one.
But I'm thinking of for my good things always happen in my historical fiction. It's set up in Germany. I'm thinking if I can find a narrator who's got a little bit of a German accent. Oh man, that would be perfect. So I'm gonna look on Amazon. I mean ACX.
Yeah, they'll.
I know, but I want to do them one at a time. I just want to see, so we're doing that.
But yeah, it's a
Anyway,
big learning curve for us.
It is.
Me too.
But he told me that I'm good at it.
Yeah, sure.
So there you have it.
You have,
Getting those files to be accepted on it, that's the hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we already submitted you have to submit the first 15 minutes. And then, so that went well. Maybe because I'm doing it in this, he's almost a professional kind of
Yeah.
studio.
well, you have to.
Yeah,
It's not something-
He's doing a really good job for me. And he's doing the pauses in the beginning and and all
And then
that. So.
I'm doing the post-production
Yeah.
on my software. So he's just doing the raw, she's going through, the mistakes and everything, and I'm going through and I'm cutting it. And then I'm setting it to the
It sounds really good.
specs
Chapter
for,
one and chapter two
ACF.
are done, and it sounds really, really good.
so,
Did a good job.
yeah, it's not gonna be a big investment for, I'm actually gonna get a microphone I can use for that and for my hand radio.
But
Double
taking your
duty.
advice, I'm hearing good things about the audio,
Oh, yeah.
the
And you-
audiobooks. So.
You have the advantage, like she does. You guys, if you're reading your own book, you know the story.
Right.
You know where to do the inflection.
Right.
Whereas somebody else coming in isn't gonna know it as intimately as the author does. And you both have good voices, so there's not a big problem.
If you could read one of mine, I'll read one of yours.
Yeah,
There you go.
We'll both make money.
Yeah.
Anyway, anybody else have anything else to add? Any news? Nobody's sick from COVID, right? I can announce that nobody's sick from COVID here. Nobody's found
None
out.
that we know of.
It's kind of funny when every time when we're in the office, we kind of kid around. There's only 3 people of us in our office, but there's people in the building. And so every time somebody sneezes, coughs, or clears their throat, first thing, COVID.
Yeah.
We joke around. Anyway,
You got a hand raised?
yes, sir. Come on up. Come on up, please.
Are we time limited on our thing?
No, we're almost good. No, I don't think we're fine.
Well, just want to mention my 2 new books coming out, published, be the end of the month.
There you go.
Yeah, there, now we can see you.
Oh, okay. You want to see me? I have 2 new books coming out at the end of the month. I published a biography called Blessed, the story of Joyce Freed Marsh, was about my wife, and she had kind of an intriguing life, just coming out, and also a Christmas anthology of my poems of Christmas.
Oh, very good.
Will you send an email to me with the, and,
Webmaster@street.org.
yeah, along with like pictures.
Yeah, this way we'll
I'm
get
always
you on our
looking
website.
for stuff to put on the web.
So, does anybody else have anything else? What?
I have a friend that, I have a friend the other day, she's a programmer and everything else. She went into the group and she got thrown by a horse and horse her. So she's really a good writer, young lady. Been in the computer world. I told her I had that writing lot as we were at the library, Cocoa Beach Library, until C-19 hit. She said she would set it up for me with all the people I had on Zoom.
Okay.
So I said, that's not a bad idea. So I get my writing back group
Right.
on Zoom. I'll let her set it up.
Great.
I'll let you know when it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
I'm not going to use Zoom next time. I'm going to do either Skype or we're going to do Facebook group. There's a Facebook Rooms too now or something like that. I'm going to try that and see if that works. Because this is ridiculous. I mean, every time there's always something going on. Either they cut it short or it doesn't work or anyway. But anyway, other than that, everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting. Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate you coming. Congratulations again, Jim.
Oh.
You. And we'll see the board of directors. We'll see you in about a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna set it up for. I'm gonna try and do the Skype this time. I'm not doing the Zoom for the board of directors meeting. So this way. Okay, that's it. Well, thank you very much, guys.